before I start this review, I just want you to know that I got messaged from Geeetech themselves if I want to make this review, and that they would send me a touch sensor in return if I would do that. And so I'm doing it right now. I just want you to know that my opinion is in no way biased. I just wouldn't have bothered to make the review if I wasn't promised a touch sensor. So I hope it will be informative to you and have fun. Hello guys, what's up? This is my kind of review of the Geeetech i3 Pro X that I bought like a month ago or 1.5 months ago off Amazon. Currently it is in a nice enclosure which I printed. Like these are just the black stuff is just 2 Ikea tables, the Ikea lag series. I'll post a link in the description probably, if I don't forget. These parts, these white parts, are printed out. You can, I'll leave the Thingiverse link in the description. These red parts I designed myself. They are holders for magnets, which are holding on to these screws in here, and that makes these plexiglass plates hold on to the enclosure. I currently don't have a back panel because I broke 2 of these off because it fell down. You might want to, if you can, might want to edit the Thingiverse files and make these little edges here a bit further out, because that's where the plexiglass will rest on. And as you can see here with these brackets, there's a bit of space here so that the plexiglass is sticking out a bit. If you use the brackets that, because these are my own brackets, the maker of the Ikea table includes his own brackets, but I made my own because I had a different size of magnets. If you use his brackets, it'll probably work fine. I just solved this with a bit of tape here. So, but let's get to the printer itself. I'll just open this and lay the panel aside. Yeah. So, the printer actually makes pretty nice results for a what was it, 270 euros I think when I bought it. This 3D benchmark boat was one of the first prints. It won't focus, god damn it. That was one of the first prints it did. You can see, or maybe not because it's not really focusing. Well, anyway, you can see a bit of, like up here it's pretty well, you can see that the filament is falling down a bit. That's mostly because of the missing part cooling fan. I added one afterwards. I printed this before it, and with the part cooling fan the results are much nicer. For a $275 printer, you can expect that you need to adjust or need to mod it a bit so that it prints greatly. I also, because I don't know if you can see this, the layers, now you can't see this in the recording, maybe I'll put a photo up. The layers are a bit shifted, and that's because these rods here, these screw rods, if I turn the printer on, maybe I can even show you. So I'll show you the rod now, and as it moves you can see it swings left, right and stuff like that. That's because these rods aren't really completely square. So what I did is I found on Thingiverse, I'll leave the link in the description, I found these top brackets. These are actually printed. They are not the acrylic parts that originally came with the printer. They are modded parts, and they have these rods, screw rods, swinging free, because that solves most of the wobbling and the layer shifting. I also added a filament filter because yesterday I had actually had the nozzle clog up. I fixed that with a needle like this. You can get these off Amazon. If I don't forget, I'll leave the link in the description too. This also was printed with the red light. You can really see it. Yeah, this is a printed filament filter. You just put a sponge in it and put some oil on it, and that will keep the filament free of dust particles, or and it will keep the filament free of dust particles, and it will oil it up a bit so that it goes smoother through the extruder. The oil won't appear in your prints. It'll probably burn up before, or yeah, you won't see the difference. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the mods I did. Yeah, this cable. The fan. I just directly soldered it to this cable for this fan that comes with the printer. I wouldn't recommend that because for the first layer you want to keep the fan off so that it adheres better to, it sticks better to the plate. So the problem I had is when I had like a really big surface, I would just disconnect this connector and both fans would turn off. The problem with that is, if this fan turns off, the motor and the filament intake, I don't know, the filament feeder will heat up so much that the filament will get soft up here and will block. It will not go straight down, but it will curl up and block the intake. I don't know. And so yeah, so you should better get like an extension cable and just run it through this cable thing into the back to the control board. So I also cut myself a piece of glass that I am holding on with these included, I don't know what these are called, clips, because this I don't know what is this material. This is, I think, aluminum or something. This, yes, it's metal. This metal plate won't, the filament won't stick to that. I didn't try to put like a glue stick on it. That might have made it stick to it. I just did the glass. I just put the glass on top. But sometimes even the glass won't help, and then I'll just take a glue stick, go over the whole surface, and then the filament will stick fine. I just remembered this extruder, feeder, whatever, this thing isn't the original part. The original is made of plastic, which is not really great because if you put too much tension on the spring, which is sometimes needed, then it will break. Which happened to me. So I bought a spare part. I bought this, a 1.75mm filament extruder feeder, which was originally made for the MK8 MakerBot wrap, and it's the right hand version. But it works fine on here if you remove these spacers that originally are on the fan here and don't screw it down too tightly, because there's no holes in this aluminum radiator for the additional screw up here. So if you don't screw it down too tightly, you can still push down the thing, and it'll be fine. What I also forgot to mention, I know this video is all over the place, but I'm sorry. What I also forgot to mention, I took the display out of this mount that was designed for it, and I printed out a piece that I mounted it to with the screws that came with the printer and some spacers, so that it sits here and I don't have to, because it's really high and in this enclosure, now I don't have to bend down and get up here. I can just stand here easily and just use the display and controls and everything. That just makes it easier. This thing is part of a box that I designed, which I don't know if I'm even gonna complete it because this works fine, but which would sit right here with the fan controller below it, and yeah, with a bit of room for cables inside it, and yeah, but I'm too lazy to print that out and put it together and everything. So yeah, this just sits here like that. But I think even it's kind of nice. Yeah. Also, my enclosure that I did, I installed an air. Yeah, I don't know what that's called in English. Well, whatever. I installed these fans to on this side pull air in, on this side push air out through this tube out of my window, because my room gets really hot with this printer, and PLA is, as far as I know, the fumes aren't toxic as far as I know, but I'm just more comfortable with the air being pushed out. Also, what I added to the enclosure was like this little box with these two switches in it, with which you will be able to turn on and off these LED strips and the fans. And here is like these two are 140 millimeters Be Quiet PC case fans, and this is a PC case fan controller. And I added this switch, which is activated when the front panel is put on, so that the light is white when the front panel is on and turns red when I take it off. I just thought that was cool. It's pretty unnecessary, but I like it. So yeah, I showed you one of the first prints, the Banshee, which turned out not really great. And now, with all these modifications, I get prints like this. This is an unfinished adapter for this tube for the window, and it looks great. I had to turn the extrusion down by a lot. I don't know why that is caused, but I had to put the extrusion rate to 57. I watched another YouTube video where someone put it up a bit in the settings, but I actually had to put it down to 57%. I will also show you my settings in Cura. So, I'm gonna show you my Cura settings for the printer. I use a layer height of 0.3 mm, a line width of 0.25 mm, wall thickness, top, bottom thickness and everything like that changes with the model, so it's not really important. Horizontal expansion is important for some prints, as if you have like a 10 mm hole, it will only be 9 mm wide if you don't use horizontal expansion. What horizontal expansion does, it I can set it way up and you will see it. Oh, now I used the positive. I wanted to use -1 mm. It shrinks down the model on every side, and you can see like there's holes now here, and it's only one line thick and everything. It shrinks it down so that the hole, so that it compensates for filament flowing outside. I use 250 degrees. You always use 60 degrees for the print bed, and currently with my current filament I use 250 degrees, which is seems kind of high to me, but it works out fine. I should probably use a lower temperature, but it works, so I don't know why I shouldn't. But with other filament you might want to turn that down. I'm using the Yanbax PLA currently from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. I use 100% flow here. I just turn the flow down to 57 on the printer itself, because somehow turning the flow down in Cura is different than turning it down on the printer. I don't know why this is happening, but it's somehow different. I don't use retraction because I was using it when I first got the printer, and somehow it's extruded more rather than retracting. It sounds kind of weird, but that's just what happened to me. I use a print speed of 30 millimeters per second and 15 for the outer wall, and a travel speed of 120 millimeters per second. But sometimes when print quality is not really important, I can even put it up to like 400%. I'll do that on the printer itself because it's easier than to change all of these numbers, and the print works out fine even at 400%. It will not be really accurate or look very pretty, but it'll work for a part that doesn't need precision or doesn't need to look good. I use combing. What combing is, it keeps the nozzle, like when it has to do travel moves, it keeps the nozzle above stuff that already got printed. Even though it cannot always do that. As you can see here, the blue lines are travel moves. Yeah, support density and even infill density should be right here. Yeah, infill density varies with the print. In some models I use like 100% infill because it's just really small parts that just work better when they're completely filled. Here I use 10% infill. That changes whatever you're printing. For build plate adhesion I use a skirt. I don't really need it for adhesion reasons, but more because there's always a bit of filament drooling out of the nozzle before the print starts, and I don't want to go in there with tweezers always and get it off there, and the skirt just helps getting it off the nozzle, kind of getting the nozzle to working, and then it starts going to the actual print and it just looks better, and there's no like big blobs of filament in the print itself. And I guess that's it for Cura settings. So that should wrap it up for this kind of review and just sharing what I did with the printer. So who do I think is this printer for? It's not for people who just want to get a 3D printer, build it, put it somewhere, and then expect the best results, and who just want it to work. It is something that you will have to spend time modding with these parts and the fan and stuff, and it's just a time. It's kind of a hobby. You will always have to work on the printer and observe it. It's not perfectly running, but for a beginner who wants to 3D print and who has time to spend on this printer and who is interested in always making it a bit better and continually working on it like me, then I think it's a good printer to start off on. And I guess that's it for this video. I hope you liked it, I hope it was helpful. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you disliked the video, leave a dislike. And yeah, that's it.